Hey y'all, this is Lydia. The guides are beckoning me to come on here and to share this repeating message that I keep getting about us stepping out in our full expression and not hiding who we are. And this can be, for some people really challenging because there's a lot in our culture that might look down on, judge, or ostracize that true self because they're afraid to be that true self themselves. And that's really what happens when people shine their light into the world in a very loving, open, and abundant way. People who aren't living in that truth, who aren't in their brightest light and their highest expression, who perhaps have shoved aspects of themselves down in order to be loved and accepted, the person who's shining their light is triggering them. It'll trigger them because they're seeing someone very unapologetically, very unbotheredly, just being who they are when they feel like they can't. And this can happen on an unconscious level or a subconscious level where they're not realizing that's where the trigger is. But at the same time, in order for us to move forward, in order for us to break into a new reality, we have to be triggered. We have to shatter those parts of ourselves and pull the rug back on shadowy parts of ourselves that we have shoved down or have suppressed or put under a rug in order to be loved and accepted. And the process isn't always a pleasant one, but it's a worthwhile one to really open up to who we could be if there was no judgment, if there was no, ostracization, excommunication, or cancel culture. If cancel culture didn't exist, if people didn't judge each other for who they are, and we had a carte blanche to be whoever we wanted to be in the world would be a very different place. And I think people would be a lot different than they are now. So for those who already are on that path to be who they are, to be who you are in your highest expression, your highest truth, and you're already living that within yourself, the call now is to really shine that light full force out into the world and to not hide it, to not dumb it down, to not pull back in any way, but to let it fly and to let it open. And to be okay with conflict, to be okay with perhaps not everyone understanding or being, accepting or supportive, because in that triggering, you are helping them break out of their own fixed constructs and their own ways of limiting themselves and keeping themselves small. And this is very important at this time. The world is changing. A lot is crumbling with old structures. And as things crumble away, this is a prime opportunity to build something new. With death comes rebirth. So, in order for this world to really take the highest leap and the biggest leap it can possibly take into a new, brighter future, we really have to make it count. And we really have to be in our abundance and unlimited perspectives and our expansive potentialities so that we can really break the limits on what we have yet to see and to really innovate and bring things into a new level. But the only way to do that on a societal level is to do it on an individual level and to really push the limits on ourselves and who we can be and what we can do and what we can achieve and how we can impact. And to not be so caught up in who am I or how can I, what kind of impact could I possibly make? Just by being yourself and being in your love and being very open about who you are and not being quiet when, the conversation is going in ways that perhaps you don't see the highest love in, but to be really open and to really speak your truth when your truth is being called forward. That really helps to push things into a new territory, because half the time people people might agree with you, but they're afraid to say something. So the more people living in their truth, the more they're inspiring others to live in theirs. And this goes back to, with this polarity we're going through, not trying to impose our ideas on others, but to really be in our highest love and our highest acceptance of just shining our light, not in contrast to others, but as a contribution to a collective whole. So not trying to, have some sort of new age evangelism go on and try to pull people into our ideas and our ideologies and try to convince people of how we see things, but to be clear how we see things and allow people to accept or reject that if they want, and to not be judgmental if someone's not on the same page as us, which is natural. It's impossible for 7.7 billion people to be on the same page. And our society is really hell-bent on this idea of standardization and homogenization and this one structure to serve millions, hundreds of millions, a billion people, when that just allows a system for people to fall through the cracks. You can't apply one single thing to everyone and expect it to work for everyone. We are heading into the age of the individual, but the individual as part of a whole, not this mass homogeneity of one size fits all. That doesn't exist. It's not real. So in order for us to move into that higher timeline, into that timeline of the individual lights that contribute to one mass light, is to really be in our individuality and to not hide it in any way. And this doesn't mean being loud either if that's not something you're comfortable with. It's just not hiding. It's not keeping our mouths shut when you can see someone's making assumptions about you, or you're hearing things and people are just assuming that everyone agrees with them. To really be clear, like, actually this is how I see it, or this is how I feel about it. But not in a way that tries to convince other of your viewpoint, but just to shine your viewpoint out into the world so that we can have that diversity and we can have the menagerie of ideas and expressions come together to compromise and to build something completely new, unprecedented, something we haven't seen before, unseen. So that's been really a strong point the divine has been driving in very hard for the past week. And this can be a facing of fears, I think, for me in particular. Coming out and being who I am full force has definitely been a long, patient process that I've had to really be tender with myself about. I have a big fear of abandonment, and I think a lot of people relate to that. We all want to be loved and accepted. So the divine also wants us to know that we are loved and accepted. And when we shine our light, our authentic light, unhidden, undoctored, judged, in order for it to be acceptable, we will more effectively attract the tribe that we belong in, and attract those souls and those relationships that match us where we're at. And if we wear masks, we'll attract people with masks. So this is about putting the mask down and really allowing ourselves to be multidimensional, undefinable, free, open, creative, authentic expressions of our hearts and our souls and who we are. And to really also push the limits of the visions of who we feel we are becoming as well. And to really take active participation in shaping that, which is another message that's been coming through. This idea of showing up and finding out in trial and error and experimentation and doing the work and practicing in order to grow and to expand and to seed our dreams. We're past the point of it being within us. It's time to get into our yang energy and to really start taking action and to put it out in the world. And there's divine is saying it's time to learn as you go. You can, gather skills and gather tools all the live long day and never get to the next level and get stuck in that process. So they're reminding us too that in order to innovate, in order to push forward, in order to get into that next level, we have to actually learn as we go and be willing to make mistakes, be willing to perhaps realize, okay, this is actually not what I want, and to pivot and to be open and sort of in a dance with life where we can really flow with the energies and to allow ourselves to be guided in order to be guided to the next thing, in order to be guided to the next thing, and not so much judge, okay, that was a one-off, that was a waste of time. It was actually tools you needed for the next leg of the trip, whether you can make that connection intellectually or not. So we're also being reminded to have deep trust in our journey and deep trust in where we're being guided and led. And again, to learn as we go, to really just dive in and to figure it out and to do it trial and error style and not get so caught up in, I need a degree first, I need this first, I need that first. No, we're being called to do what needs to be done now and do what can be done now so that we can start putting things into practice and we can get into that mastery level of our visions, of what we want to master, of what we want to draw down into earth and what we want to manifest. In order to get there, the divine is saying it's time to get started. It's time to be the little fledgling, to be the little neophyte, and to really learn and build and gain skill through practice, through putting foot to pavement, and not get so caught up in trying to be an expert before you even get started. That's not possible. The only way to become an expert, to become a master, is to get in there and to make mistakes and to really problem solving and not get so caught up in not making any mistakes, because our education system sort of instills that in us. Perfection is an illusion. We're here to really get our hands dirty and to find out for ourselves, and to play and have fun with this idea of trying and failing, trying and succeeding, and just taking everything and accepting all and rejecting none of it, and to be in our fullest, highest expression in life without trying to, you know, convince ourselves that we need something else in order to get where we're going. We are whole already. We're as whole as we're going to be. And we're being reminded that on this journey of life, when we are whole in any given moment, then we're prepared for that next step, because we're actively taking steps forward, not in any sort of lack mentality of thinking, I'm not good enough, I don't have enough. It's I am where I am, and I'm going to get where I'm going by taking the steps and going. And if something doesn't work, I'll try again. If that doesn't work, I'll try something else. And to really, be curious in that way, and to experiment that way, and to get started. So I hope this message resonates. I'm sending love and wishing you well. Bye.